Good morning and welcome to new edition of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. We are always concerned when one country tries to colonize the other, and the colonization has different shapes. It can be downright conquest, the way Tibet was conquered in recent history. It can be insidious economic invasion, the way America did it earlier and now China is doing it. But the most insidious form is to try to control the minds of the younger generation who are going to be the future citizens and the leaders of a different world. To modulate their mindsets in a way that they adhere to the commands of the masters. And you'll be shocked to know that 62, at least 62 American universities are being conquered in a very insidious manner. And these universities are big names: MIT, Harvard, Yale, Berkeley, name it and they are there. Stanford, California Institute of Technology, Michigan, Texas A&M, Eastern Washington, Ball State University, and two countries, just two countries, are spending millions, no, sorry, billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars in these universities. There's an old proverb: money makes the mayor go. Naturally, when these universities are getting that much of money, you can well imagine they shall kowtow to them, accept their demands, right or wrong, and often at the cost of scholarship and their own integrity. And the recent disclosure by the investigation by the government of USA, it is astonishing that most of these universities are getting funds from these two countries, China and Saudi Arabia, against all rules which have been set up. The American universities doing business with Saudis and China, largely in the form of sponsored research, have no reason to stop. And the people who argued against those ties were easily ignored. For example, MIT's Media Lab. The Media Lab by itself is very important because it tells you how to control media, how to manipulate it, how to present fake news as real news, how to disseminate information, misinformation, and disinformation. So MIT Media Lab is a very high profile domain with a carefully cultivated progressive image and a language of its own. For example, it doesn't call its syllabi curriculum as interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary, but as anti-disciplinary. And a major portion of the Media Lab, their annual budget is $75 million. It comes from the corporate patrons, they say, who are referred to as members and pay a minimum of 250,000, a quarter of a million every year. There are 90 members, and one of them is Prince Mohammed of Saudi Arabia. They signed a deal, three contracts with the Media Lab of $23 million each, and they were to aid an initiative with the university and SABIC. The SABIC is a Saudi state-owned petrochemical industry for research And this is done. Now you would say, well, what's wrong with a more corporate research? Nothing wrong with it per se. But then, as he said, he who pays gets the services he wants. It's the young people who come first. For example, in Saudi Arabia case, they come for admission and the fees are paid. But here is a very curious way. The fees are not paid to the student. Student doesn't. They are paid directly to the university, and it's the government of Saudi Arabia which decides which students should study what subject. The student cannot choose, and they can withdraw. It happened in Canada as well. They are paying millions of dollars for getting the students educated. Now, again, there's nothing wrong with that. But when extra wealthy universities like MIT, whose finances are somewhat similar to the economies of mid-sized nations, it is shocking. Because then what they do is they modulate their research and their activity as per the needs of the paying master. Now, MIT spends $3.6 billion on its operations last year. They said that's what they, and it has an endowment of $16.5 billion. Is the sixth largest among the American universities, and it is a greater money than the GDP of nearly 70 countries, including Mongolia, Nicaragua, and Republic of Congo. The money it receives from Saudi Arabia is relatively modest, but it has received individual gifts to almost $43 million. Now, what happens in that case? You would see the curriculum would be changed, formulated. And that's why nowadays communism and leftist and socialism, these concepts were abhorred in USA. USA was the home of capitalism, free enterprise, entrepreneurship. The word socialism and communism were anathema. People are allergic to it. During the times of Senator McCarthy, anybody even having a sneaking sympathy with these leftist attitudes was hounded and even sent to jail. And now the Democratic Party, especially the young people who are coming from the fresh universities, they are all crying at the top of their voice, socialism. Now you mean to say that they're just doing it? No, it's a Chinese propaganda machine. And interestingly, there has not been a single murmur against Saudi Arabia's reprehensive action in human rights violation. Even when Khashoggi was murdered, these leftists who are always crying at the drop of a hat, did not say a single word critical of Saudi Arabia. Now again, they were very vocal. All these universities, whether it's Harvard or Princeton or Yale, Northwestern, Stanford, California, Michigan, when government of India abolished Article 370 and brought Jammu and Kashmir under the direct control of the federal government. They were talking of the human rights violation, but has a single voice been raised against China's activities and their recent incursion in Ladakh? No. Or they're sending missiles in South China Sea? No. Did they say a single word against Saudi bombardment of Yemen? No. Why? Because they had been paid to keep their mouths shut and their brains had been conditioned conditioned in a way to think that what they were doing was in the good for the good of the people. Now, as I said, the Saudi government and China pay tuitions directly under individual contracts to many universities. And the contract specifies students' majors and state that the Saudi Cultural Mission in the North Virginia would be informed if the student wants to change the course. Now, this is amazing. Can you believe that you want to study and you want somebody else to decide what you should study? Any change in the major would render the contract null and void. And this systematic way is not being used by any other country. There are more than 300,000 students, and most of them, 300,000 or more than that, are from China alone. But then the money spent by Saudi Arabia, $650 million to the Mecca University. And this is really shocking. As a matter of fact, China controls because of two reasons. They are spending money directly, and then it gives lavish money for contract research and also for indoctrinating the minds of the people. Saudi Arabia is only concerned with ensuring that there is no criticism of Saudi Arabia, one, and secondly, its petroleum studies are enhanced, they can get more return. Can you believe that MIT has a partnership with a technology incubator outside Moscow? They are crying a lot that Moscow was interfering. And the president of that MIT Partnership Technology Incubator is who? The billionaire oligarch Victor Vesselberg. He is also the MIT trustee. And amazingly, USA has put him on a sanctions list. The totals of the foreign gifts are incomplete. But you can well imagine there are more than $600 billion. And the tuition fees are different. According to an ongoing Trump administration investigation, the colleges and the universities have failed to report, and the 10 schools have already accounted for half of that figure of $3.6 billion. And this investigation by the education department, for the first time, it was reported in the Wall Street Journal. Now, my concern is, as I said earlier, sorry, my concern is that when these foreign governments pay, either for the students or make outright grants, then they have definitely an axe to grind. And then, they are aware that USA is not a poor country. If they're investing this money in Afghanistan, in Mali, in Somalia, I could understand that they have got the right approach that the youth in these countries should get education. No, they are going to USA and also not only to ordinary universities but to the top-notch universities. I have given you the names: University of Pennsylvania, Boston, Texas, A&M, Carnegie Mellon, Yale, Cornell, Harvard. You see, and MIT, of course, I said earlier. Now, when these universities are manipulated, they manipulate the minds of the people. And the whole social structure and the economic structure of USA is at risk. That is something reprehensible. That is going to shatter the American dream, and that's what Trump is creeping about. This insidious enslavement of the minds of the people in America is not going to be visible in the next couple of years, but say couple of decades. You might see America become a vassal state economically, socially, and culturally of China. It might be like Pakistan, dependent on China. Already, if you remember, I had posted that more than 18 large names like Google are indirectly owned by China. Their investments are so high. So, on the one side, they are investing in the corporate sector, then they're investing in the education sector. And this pincer movement is going to destroy America from within. Rather, not destroy, but bring it in tune with the hopes and aspirations of China. But the American dream is in danger of being shattered. And that would be something not in the interest of the free world, not in the interest of capitalist world. Can we hope that the government, which is waking up, they have set up the institution, but the system is such. So the universities have to be told that no money from the foreign countries at all. Otherwise, this cultural, educational, and corporate enslavement would lead to demolishing the citadel of freedom and democracy. And I shudder to think of that time. Thank you.